Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to explain how expenses work in Odoo in version 11. I'm going to start with the big picture, and then we will see the different use cases and a small demonstration of it. So the big picture. Expenses is not just an employee submitting an expense. It's also a manager having to see what expenses are created by each user, being able to track everything that's going on. It's also about a salesperson being able to reveal those expenses. It's about the project manager being able to see what expenses are linked to a project. And it's, of course, also about an accountant being able to track the expenses, to put them in the account that they need to be, and to be able to pay back the employee. So the use case. Let's just assume I'm a consultant at Odoo, and I just had to take a taxi because, yeah, Odoo experience. And what I'll do is create the expense reports. It will start being in the submit option, and I can attach the invoice of the taxi or a hotel or anything you need to. You choose the product, you choose the price, and you submit it. But sometimes you're on the go, you don't have time, you think you might lose the ticket, so you can quickly take your phone, take a picture of the expense, you send it to the expense email address, and it will stay there in the to submit status until you have more time to submit all the expenses that you need. As you can see, you have all the expenses to submit. For example, you traveled, then you have your lunch, and you can see the price. Basically, you need, sorry, you have all the different options. With the manager, once the expense has been submitted, you can see all the documents that have been attached. You can also see all the comments here, the different ones, because of course each line is a different expense. And then you can either approve or refuse. Once it's been approved, it goes from submit to approved. If it's been refused, it can always be resubmitted. The employee can change the information, can add a receipt. Maybe he forgot to add the picture. When it's been refused, you can always add, of course, the reason to refuse the expense. And then it goes to the accountant. With the accountant, it's exactly the same. It goes from approved to posted. Or if it's refused, you need to give a reason, but it can be resubmitted at any time with the corrections that are necessary. Once it's been posted, the accountant can register the payments. You can, for example, use the new Caba credit transfer or any other way to do the reimbursement to the employee. And after that, you validate, and you have your expenses posted and paid. The next step that could be, of course, is not necessary. If you link this expense to a sales order, the salesman can add the expense. Here we can see that Peter Parker traveled by air, and it's added to a service inside the sale order. The manager can go to the expenses, or you can also do it from the project if it's linked to a project. And you can filter all the expenses of each employee by all the different accounts and get the reports on any way that you need to be able to see it. And I will do a quick demonstration of how it works. Just taking a picture, sending the email. So just take a picture. I'll send the email that I'm creating now on the screen in a second.
You send a specific email and that action turns it into expense in the expenses report?
Yes, exactly. In a second, I'll be able to explain all the different fields that you need to select. Okay. This is sent. So 1247, this is the email I just did with the gorgeous ticket. And here in the subject, you can see that I chose the expense item. In this case, it's a taxi. You just need to put the brackets. You can configure this in the expense product. Basically, it's an internal reference. So you use the internal reference in between brackets to choose which product you're submitting. Then here, we have used the description of it. In this case, it was Odoo experience on Thursday. And after that, you just have the price of it. That's it. All these fields are optional. If you just send an email completely blank to the expenses, it will create a completely blank expense. Let's say you're in a hurry, but you just want a quick reminder that you need to create it later. You send an email blank, and you'll have it there, an empty expense to submit. Let's say you just want to take a picture of the ticket because you might lose it. You use the email with the ticket, and it will be there. It will be attached. Or you can do like here, add all the fields that you need, and then when you go back to Odoo, you go to expenses, and here we have it. We have one document. Oops. We have one document, which is the picture I just took. You have the taxi product. Of course, if, for example, I wanted to use the expense product, I just put in between the brackets EXP, and that works. I have the description that I put in the subject, the price that I put in the subject, and if you have anything written in the body of the email, you will have a comment here, just in case you need any additional information. So once this is created, you can submit it to a manager. The manager can just approve or refuse. The accountant can post the journal entries or can refuse. If he wants to refuse, he needs to give a reason. And once it's been refused, you can quickly resubmit, and it goes through all the same steps. Once the accountant has approved, you can do the payments. We can choose cash, validate, and voila. That's an easy expense. So the good thing about this is not just an expense. It's linked with everything. You will have it with your project. You will have it with your sales. Of course, you'll have it in expenses. And you'll have it in accounting. It's all linked. It's easy to do. And it's very straightforward, which is why this presentation might not last 30 minutes. But questions?
Where is the configuration? Where is that when I send an email to expense at Odoo, then this is generated into an
Yep. The email address is.
Where did you configure this?
It's configured by default in SAS. For example, I created. Let me show you.
Yeah. Could I use this with version 9 also, or is this only specific 11?
In 10, it worked as well. In 9, I'm not sure. I will need to check. I would say yes, but I'm not sure. So this database I created is OXP/expenses2. So the email address that you need to use is expense at. Actually, it might be easier. I'm a graphic person, so just in case someone is like me, here you can see the address. So expense at the name of your database. In our case, it's mail.odoo, but in your case, it might be, I don't know, microsoft.odoo.com. Of course, if you use your own email server, you can configure it as well. You just need to configure the incoming mail server. It's quite easy, and it works the same. You just choose that.
But then on the incoming mail server, has to generate that it generates an expense.
Yeah. Every time it receives an email from one of the employees. In this case, let me show you. We have only one employee, which is me. It recognizes the address, the email address that is coming from, and then it generates the expense linked to me.
the Odoo, and then how does it distribute to a sub-email? Because when you send it to expense, but it also has to recognize yourself, so it means the incoming email settings, like example.
It's configured by default. It recognizes who is the sender, and if you're sending it to expenses, it will create an expense.
But this is only on your Odoo platform. If I have my own platform, I need to set it up something.
Yes, yes. Okay, let me show the. You go to incoming mail server, you click on create, and there's documentation about this, but basically you just need to put the name of it. For example, if you're using a Gmail account, you would create emap, if I remember correctly. Just put the
m.google.com.
sorry.
It's a server name.
What? Sorry.
I was just telling you the server name. It's fine.
Ah, okay, okay. You just put the username and password of the email. You choose create a new record on expense, and that's it. And like this, you can configure many other functions, because any email you create here, you can make it to create a new record on expense, on leads, or you can also create server actions. But this is slightly out of the...
I don't think it's the best way to do that. If you go to expense configuration, you have the email, and this is where you want to set up the email.
Expense.
Yeah, when you create an alias, this is the way to do that. Here, you click on here.
Yeah, the email alias for the expense app.
Exactly.
Yeah. Through both the way, if you are using external email server like Gmail, then you could give that configuration as well. And if you are using an Odoo server-based incoming mail server, then you can just provide this email alias to everyone, so they can send the email on that email alias. Then it will redirect automatically to the expense app.
Yes?
You told that when you enter an expense, it does the job automatically to the company file. What about the VAT?
That's a good question. Let me check. I'm not sure, do you know?
What is this question?
If it takes into account the taxes.
It is with tax?
Yep.
No, but we cannot configure any taxes with the expense. If it is present with the product, then it will count. If you have any taxes with the product, then it will count.
Okay. Yep. So if you have any taxes configured with the product, it will take it into account. And if you don't have any taxes configured with it, it will not. It all depends. So it's the same as when you do a purchase or a sales or any other thing. If you have the product configured with taxes, it will create it as well. It will take it into account. Yep.
Every expense is a specific product of some kind. It is a generic product.
Okay.
Is it possible to link an expense to an invoice?
Yes. Well, you can link it to the sale order, and then from the sale order you can create the invoice.
But if you create the expense and then you create an invoice, then you will be duplicating the expense.
How do you invoice the expense?
When you
actually link it to an analytic account, and the analytic account is what handles the expense on the sale order.
I want to
Yes.
have the invoice because I have a lot of information about that invoice. So incoming invoice. Yeah, supplier invoice.
For an expense like this.
Yeah, it's like I'm a service manager. I have to go to a hotel. Then the hotel makes the invoice, the supplier invoice, but it's not to me. It's to the company. So I need to register that invoice. You know?
I think to
Yeah, I don't think it is expenses for that.
Yeah.
No.
No,
You
it's
just
not.
have your bills on the account.
It's some kind of expense itself.
yeah. Yeah. So in that scenario, I'm afraid not.
But I
Yes?
mean, if the employer pays that expense, then I want to register that so that I can give the money
But
back
you
to
can
the
set the payment by the employee or the company. If you are directly deal with the company, you can select the company over here. You can select the supplier over there. And you can select the supplier, like to whom you directly pay, rather than the employee. In your case, you are not paying to the directly employees. You directly pay to the company.
So we're just saying that I shouldn't register the expense?
Yes. No, you should change the payment by the employee or the company. You should
Okay,
change
but
the configuration.
if I check the company, can
And
I?
it's just simple the payment to the customers, not the payment to the employee. It's just only that difference.
Okay, but
Nothing
can I,
else.
but can I link this expense to the?
Any other question?
Would it be possible to use this kind of configuration for bills?
For
For bills,
bills, as in supplier.
incoming
Um,
account and say that it's an expense, but it's quite registered as a bill.
It's the same
Yeah.
question I asked. You can.
runs away.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's similar.
You can.
Any other question? Yeah.
If you have an employee with several or many bills, do you aggregate the payment for that?
You can aggregate the payments. You can create an expense report, and then you can add several expenses to it. And then you group them all together. For example, let's say you have 3 expenses, one flight, one hotel, and a dinner. Here, you create the report, you add them all together. It's basically like a sales order. You put them all in the lines, and you submit it together.
Okay.
Yep.
Even with different currencies?
Hmm?
Even with different currencies?
Oh.
In one single expense, you should put one currency. Not multi-currency line in the one report. You should add multiple lines with the same currency. Otherwise, in one expense, you will not get the report.
So it works for multiple currencies?
It
Gives you
will
the
work.
option to choose the currency?
No, yeah, it will work with the multi-currency, but one expense should be with the one currency.
This is also something new that you can summarize in one report. This is a new
Yeah.
function.
Yep. Yeah. Wait, I'm gonna create a new one so that you can see. Hmm?
Invoice and 10 also be analyst.
Yep. Yep. Expenses to submit. So now I have 2 expenses to submit. If I go to an expense report, I can choose both of them. And that's it, they are both submitted, and then is exactly the same as before. Manager approves, accountant posts journals, exactly the same procedure. Well, then I guess we're done. Enjoy the rest of the day, and thank you for coming.